Imagine someone tells you that next Monday will be your last sunrise. Not next year. Not someday. 7 days. Suddenly, your inbox becomes meaningless. Your bank account becomes secondary. The arguments you've been carrying for years disappear. The approval you've been chasing no longer matters. Everything fake falls away. Everything real remains. This audiobook is not about preparing for death. It's about exposing the tragedy of people who wait until death arrives before they finally begin living. Because the truth is simple. You may not have 7 days left, but you're already spending your life as if you have forever. That ends today. Chapter 1. Stop living like time is infinite. There is one lie that almost every human being believes, not because someone taught it to them, because life whispers it every single morning. There will be another chance. Another Monday, another birthday, another vacation, another conversation, another opportunity to become the person you've always wanted to be. That lie is responsible for more unfinished dreams than failure itself. People rarely lose their lives because they lack talent. They lose them because they believe they have unlimited time. Listen carefully. You don't waste life because you hate it. You waste life because you assume there will always be more. That's the key. Imagine two people waking up tomorrow morning. The first is told, "You probably have another 40 years." The second is told, "You have exactly 7 days." Neither person's intelligence changes. Neither becomes richer overnight. Neither suddenly learns a new skill. Only one thing changes: their relationship with time. The first person checks email before watching the sunrise. The second watches the sunrise before touching a phone. The first postpones calling their parents. The second calls immediately. The first says, "I'll start next month." The second starts today. Nothing about the world changed. Only the deadline changed, and suddenly everything became clear. That should disturb you, because it proves something uncomfortable. Most of what you believe is important is only important because you assume tomorrow exists. Think about the arguments you've carried for years, the resentment you've protected, the opinions of strangers you've allowed to shape your choices. Would they matter if you knew next Monday was your last sunrise? Probably not. You have a choice. You can continue living as though your calendar stretches forever, or you can begin treating today as something that cannot be replaced. That's the key. Every day you postpone something meaningful, you quietly make a trade. You exchange certainty for hope. You hope there will be another chance. You hope you'll feel more motivated. You hope the timing will finally be perfect. But life has never guaranteed perfect timing. Life only guarantees that time moves in one direction: forward, never backward. You cannot negotiate with yesterday. You cannot buy another hour from last year. You cannot relive the afternoon you spent scrolling instead of speaking to someone you loved. Time accepts no refunds. That isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to wake you up. Most people spend their lives protecting money while wasting time. They budget every dollar. But they spend entire years without asking whether those years are being invested wisely. Imagine someone handing you $86,400 every morning. At midnight, every dollar you failed to use disappears forever. You would never ignore it. You would never casually throw it away. Yet every day you receive something far more valuable: 86,400 seconds. And unlike money, once a second disappears, no amount of success can purchase it back. You don't waste life because you hate it. You waste life because you assume there will always be more. Let those words stay with you, not as a slogan, as a mirror. because every postponed dream begins with the same sentence. I'll do it later. Later, I'll write the book. Later, I'll travel. Later, I'll forgive. Later, I'll become healthier. Later, I'll tell them I love them. Later becomes next year. Next year becomes someday. Someday, quietly, becomes never. That's how regret is born, not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary afternoons filled with small delays. One delay rarely destroys a life. Thousands of them do. You don't need more motivation. You need a different relationship with time. It's not about being busy. It's about being awake. It's not about having more years. It's about honoring the one you're living right now. You don't need anyone's permission to begin. You have a choice. And every choice is a vote for the life you're building. Every conversation you postpone. Every dream you delay. Every meaningful action you replace with distraction. Those choices accumulate. They become your future. The question is no longer, how much time do I have? The better question is, what am I doing with the time that is already mine? Because once you answer that honestly, your priorities begin to change. And when your priorities change, your life changes with them. You have started to challenge the greatest illusion of all, that time is guaranteed. Now it's time to confront an even deeper truth. If tomorrow were never promised, would you discover that you've been existing or that you've truly been living? Let's continue. Chapter 2. Most people never actually live. There is a painful difference between existing and living. Most people never notice it, because existence is comfortable. Living requires awareness. Existing happens automatically. Living happens intentionally. Every morning, millions of people wake up before the alarm. They don't pause to appreciate another sunrise. They don't ask themselves what kind of day they want to create. Instead, they immediately step onto a conveyor belt that someone else built. Wake, work, scroll, sleep, repeat, day after day, week after week, year after year. Nothing dramatic happens. That's exactly why it's dangerous. Life is rarely stolen in a single moment. It is quietly traded away through ordinary days that all begin to look the same. One day becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 1 year. 1 year becomes an entire decade. Then suddenly, someone asks, "Where did the time go?" The answer is simple. It disappeared inside routine. Routine is useful. It creates discipline. It builds consistency. But when routine replaces awareness, it becomes a prison you can no longer see. That's the key. Imagine driving the same road to work every morning. Eventually, you stop noticing the trees. You stop noticing the sky. Sometimes you arrive without remembering the drive at all. Your brain operated on autopilot. Now ask yourself a harder question. Have you been doing the same thing with your life? Have you been living on autopilot for years? You have a choice. You can continue repeating yesterday, or you can become awake enough to create something different today. Being busy is not the same as being alive. Never confuse movement with meaning. A calendar full of meetings does not guarantee a meaningful life. A paycheck does not automatically equal fulfillment. Crossing tasks off a list is not the same as building memories that matter. Many people spend 40 years climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. That realization doesn't happen when they're 25. It often happens at retirement. For the first time in decades, the schedule disappears. The emails stop. The deadlines vanish. And silence finally asks the question they avoided for years. Did you actually live? Or did you simply stay occupied? Some people answer that question with peace. Others answer it with regret. The difference was never money. The difference was awareness. Being busy is not the same as being alive. Chapter 3. Stop chasing people who were never choosing you. There is a quiet tragedy that steals years from people's lives. It isn't failure. It isn't poverty. It isn't bad luck. It is the endless pursuit of approval. From the moment you are young, you're taught to look outward before you ever learn to look inward. Be liked. Be accepted. Fit in. Don't disappoint anyone. Without realizing it, you begin building a life around someone else's opinion. You choose careers because they sound impressive. You stay in friendships because leaving would feel uncomfortable. You remain in relationships long after the love has disappeared because you fear being alone more than being unhappy. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You apologize for taking up space. You become an actor in your own life. The performance becomes so familiar that you mistake it for your identity. But ask yourself one question. If you truly had only 7 days left to live, whose approval would still matter? Would you spend your final week trying to impress strangers on the internet? Would you worry about winning another argument? Would you sacrifice another evening with people you love just to earn praise from people who barely know your name? Of course not. Because when time becomes scarce, pretending becomes impossible. That is the truth most people discover far too late. Mortality has a way of exposing what was always real. The masks become heavy. The performance becomes exhausting. And suddenly, you realize that the people worth keeping never required you to become someone else in the first place. You have a choice. You can continue chasing people who never choose you, or you can begin choosing yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of honesty. That's the key. It is not about rejection. It is about self-respect. The moment you stop measuring your worth by other people's applause, you reclaim something far more valuable than approval. You reclaim your time, and your time is your life. When time becomes scarce, pretending becomes impossible. Chapter 4. Say what you've been afraid to say. There are words that become heavier every day you refuse to speak them. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I was wrong. I love you. I'm proud of you. One sentence. Sometimes only 3 words. Yet people carry them for years. Not because they don't know what to say. Because they keep waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment almost never arrives. Life does not announce its final conversation. No one receives a calendar invitation that says, "This is your last chance." The phone call you postpone today may become the call you never get to make. The visit you delay until next month may become impossible next month. That is why silence is expensive. It costs more than words ever will. Think about the parent who says, "I'll visit when work slows down." The child grows older. The years pass quietly. Birthdays become holidays. Holidays become occasional text messages. Then one day, there is an empty chair at the family table. Suddenly, there is all the time in the world to regret the conversations that never happened. But regret has never changed the past. Silence is expensive. Now think about the old friend you haven't spoken to in years. Not because you stopped caring, because life became busy. You assumed there would always be another reunion, another weekend, another chance to laugh about old memories. Then you hear that they moved away, or became ill, or are simply gone. You realize the distance was never measured in miles. It was measured in postponed moments. You have a choice. You can continue believing there will always be another opportunity, or you can create that opportunity today. That's the key. The words you are afraid to speak often become the words you most need to say. Perhaps there is an apology you've rehearsed 100 times in your mind. You know exactly how it begins. yet your pride keeps rewriting the ending. Remember this: an apology does not erase the past, it frees the future. It's not about being right, it's about having the courage to repair what still can be repaired. The same is true for love. Many people feel it deeply, but express it rarely. They assume the people closest to them already know. Maybe they do, but hearing the words still matters. Never underestimate what a simple "I love you" can mean to someone who has spent years wondering if they matter. Silence is expensive. Dreams can also become victims of silence. How many books were never written because someone feared criticism? How many businesses were never started because someone waited for confidence? How many songs remained unwritten? How many ideas disappeared with the people who carried them? The world is filled not only with broken dreams, but with dreams that were never spoken aloud. And every one of them began with the same thought: maybe someday. Someday is not a plan. Someday is where possibilities quietly disappear. If this audiobook has taught you anything so far, let it be this: do not leave your most important words trapped inside you. Say thank you. Say I'm sorry. Say I forgive you. Say I love you. Share the dream. Make the call. Write the message. Open the conversation. Because the cost of speaking honestly lasts only a moment. The cost of lifelong silence can last forever. Silence is expensive. And every day you choose courage over silence, you become the kind of person who leaves fewer regrets behind. You have found your voice. Now it's time to discover that what competes for your attention also competes for your life. Chapter 5. Your possessions will never miss you. Walk through your home for a moment. Look at everything you own: the clothes, the furniture, the gadgets, the decorations, the boxes stored in closets that haven't been opened in years. Now ask yourself one uncomfortable question. How much of your life did you exchange for these things? Not just your money, your time. Every object has a hidden price. Hours spent working. Weekends sacrificed. Stress carried home. Energy that could never be recovered. Money can be earned again. Time cannot. That is why this chapter is not about becoming a minimalist. It is about becoming intentional. There is a difference. The world constantly tells you that happiness is one purchase away: a newer phone, a larger house, a faster car, a better watch, a more expensive vacation. The promise is always the same. Once you have this, you'll finally feel complete. But the feeling rarely lasts. A few days, a few weeks, sometimes only a few hours. Then your attention moves to the next thing. The cycle begins again. You own many things. Eventually, your things own your attention. That's the key. Think about someone who has just been told they have 7 days left to live. How many shopping carts would they fill? How many luxury items would suddenly become essential? How many hours would they spend comparing prices online? Almost none, because in the presence of mortality, value becomes obvious. People don't crave another possession. They crave another conversation, another sunset, another meal with family, another chance to laugh with an old friend, another ordinary morning they once took for granted. The things remain in the house. Life happens somewhere else. You have a choice. You can spend your years collecting objects, or you can spend them collecting moments that remain valuable long after the objects have been forgotten. It's not about owning less. It's about living more. Consumer culture depends on one dangerous illusion. It convinces you that if you stay distracted long enough, you won't have to think about the fact that your time is limited. So you keep buying, keep upgrading, keep chasing. Not because you truly need more, but because wanting the next thing feels easier than asking the deeper question. What kind of life am I actually building? That question changes everything, because once you answer it honestly, many purchases lose their power over you. You begin investing in experiences instead of appearances, in relationships instead of status, in memories instead of merchandise. You own many things. Eventually, your things own your attention. Do not let your possessions become the center of a life they can never replace. Own what serves your life. Do not serve what you own. Because when your final days arrive, no possession will sit beside your bed and thank you for buying it. But the people you loved, the places you explored, the courage you showed, those are the treasures that remain. You have begun to loosen your grip on things. Now it's time to examine something even more valuable than possessions. The next chapter explores the one resource every distraction is trying to steal. Chapter 6. Protect your attention. Like it is your life. There is one resource more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, more valuable than opportunity. It is your attention. Because your attention determines where your life is being lived. Every moment you are conscious, your attention is somewhere. On a conversation, on a dream, on a problem, or on a distraction. You cannot separate your life from your attention. They are the same thing. Where your attention goes, your life quietly follows. That's the key. Most people believe they are protecting their time. Very few protect their attention. But time without attention is an empty experience. Have you ever finished watching an hour of videos only to realize you barely remembered any of them? The hour is gone. Your attention was scattered. Your life moved forward anyway. This is how modern distraction works. It rarely steals an entire day. It steals 30 seconds, then another minute, another notification, another headline, another message that convinces you it deserves your immediate response. One interruption seems harmless. 1,000 interruptions become your lifestyle. You have a choice. You can allow the world to decide what deserves your attention, or you can decide for yourself. Every notification makes the same request. Stop living your moment. Come live mine instead. Most people say yes without thinking. They interrupt conversations, meals, walks, books, even moments with the people they love. Not because the notification was important, because reacting became a habit. It's not about technology. It's about discipline. Imagine again that you have only 7 days remaining. Would you spend those 7 days refreshing social media every few minutes? Would you measure your final week by likes, comments, and endless scrolling? Or would you sit beside someone you love without looking at a screen? Would you watch one more sunset without reaching for your phone? Would you listen more carefully? Laugh more freely? Notice the small moments that have always been available but rarely appreciated. The answer is obvious. Mortality changes attention. It reminds us what was important all along. Where your attention goes, your life quietly follows. So begin asking a different question each morning. Not, what do I have to get done? But, what deserves my full attention today? That single question can transform an ordinary day into a meaningful one. Guard your attention the way you would guard your final week. Because in a very real sense, you are already spending it. One moment at a time. One choice at a time. You have reclaimed your attention. Now it's time to ask an even deeper question. If your life ended tomorrow, what kind of story would you leave behind? Chapter 7. Become impossible to regret. Imagine for a moment that your life has already been lived. The race is over. The calendar has closed. People gather to remember you. What will they say? Not what you hope they say. What would they honestly say? Would they remember your job title? Your income? The size of your house? Perhaps for a moment. But those things are never the story. The story is always the person. Were you kind? Were you courageous? Did you keep your word? Did people feel stronger after spending time with you? Or did you spend your entire life chasing achievements while neglecting the relationships that gave those achievements meaning? That is why you must reverse engineer your life. Do not wait until the end to ask whether it mattered. Ask today. If your obituary were written by your daily choices instead of your intentions, what kind of person would it describe? That's the key. Many people build impressive resumes. Very few build unforgettable character. Success can earn admiration. Character earns remembrance. The two are not the same. You have a choice. You can spend your life trying to impress strangers, or you can become someone the people closest to you never have to question. Ask yourself another question. What kind of person would leave without unfinished conversations? Would there still be apologies waiting to be spoken? Gratitude left unexpressed? Forgiveness postponed? Love assumed but never said aloud? These are not small details. These are the moments that shape an entire life. Regret grows wherever courage was postponed, every difficult conversation avoided, every meaningful risk delayed, every truth left unspoken. Each one plants a seed. Years later, those seeds become regret, not because life was unfair, because courage kept being scheduled for someday. It's not about achievement. It's about identity. Achievements are things you accomplish. Identity is the person you become while accomplishing them. One eventually disappears. The other becomes your legacy. So stop asking, what do I want to achieve? Begin asking, who must I become? Become the person who tells the truth. Become the person who shows up. Become the person who keeps promises. Become the person whose presence leaves people better than before. Because in the end, people may forget what you owned. They may even forget what you accomplished. But they rarely forget how you made them feel. Regret grows wherever courage was postponed. So choose courage today. Not tomorrow. Today. You have started building a life that leaves fewer regrets behind. Now the question becomes even greater. How do you leave something behind that continues to matter after you're gone? Chapter 8. Give more than you take. At the end of your life, people will not gather because of what you accumulated. They will gather because of what you gave. Think about the people you still remember. Perhaps it was a teacher who believed in you before you believed in yourself. A parent who worked quietly, asking for nothing in return. A mentor who took an extra hour to explain something that changed your future. Or maybe it was a complete stranger. Someone who offered kindness on a day when you desperately needed it. Most of these people were never famous. Many were never wealthy. Yet they changed lives, not through extraordinary power, through ordinary generosity. That is how legacy is built, not in a single dramatic moment, but in thousands of small decisions to leave people better than you found them. That's the key. The world often teaches you to ask, what can I get? A better salary, a bigger opportunity, more recognition, more comfort. But a meaningful life begins with a different question. What can I give? Your attention, your encouragement, your patience, your knowledge, your forgiveness. Sometimes these gifts cost nothing, yet they become priceless to the person receiving them. Your greatest possession is the impact that survives you. Read that again. Not your house, not your savings, not your collection of achievements. Your impact, because influence continues long after possessions disappear. A father teaches his daughter confidence. Years later, she teaches that confidence to her own children. A coach refuses to give up on one struggling student. That student grows into an adult who refuses to give up on others. One honest conversation inspires another. One act of compassion creates another. Kindness compounds. Like interest in a bank account, its value grows as it passes from one life to the next. You may never witness the full reach of your actions. That does not make them any less real. You have a choice. You can measure success by what you collect, or you can measure it by what remains after you are gone. It's not about being remembered by millions. It's about being unforgettable to the people whose lives crossed yours. If you had only 7 days remaining, you would not ask how many people admired you. You would ask how many people truly felt loved because you were here. That question changes everything. Your greatest possession is the impact that survives you. Live in a way that allows your kindness to outlive your heartbeat. You have begun to understand that life is not measured by what you own, but by what you leave inside others. Now comes the final challenge. How do you build a life that would need no last-minute repairs if tomorrow never came? Chapter 9. Build a life. You wouldn't need more time to fix. One of the greatest misconceptions about death is that people fear dying. Many do, but that is rarely the deepest fear. The deeper fear is reaching the end and realizing they never truly lived. They fear unfinished conversations, unfinished dreams, unfinished courage, not because they lacked time, because they believed they had more of it. That is why so many people quietly whisper the same sentence near the end of life. I wish I had traveled. I wish I had forgiven sooner. I wish I had spent more time with my family. I wish I had worried less. Notice what is missing. Almost no one says, I wish I had answered more emails. I wish I had spent more time scrolling. I wish I had delayed my dreams a little longer. Perspective changes everything. And nothing changes perspective faster than realizing time is limited. You don't need another year. You need a different today. That's the key. Many people imagine that one day they will completely reinvent their lives. They picture a dramatic transformation, a new city, a new career, a new beginning. But extraordinary lives are rarely built through dramatic moments. They are built through ordinary mornings, ordinary conversations, ordinary choices repeated with intention. Every day you tell the truth instead of taking the easy path. Every day you choose presence over distraction. Every day you spend an hour creating instead of consuming. You are quietly building a life that requires fewer future regrets. You have a choice. You can continue hoping that your future self will fix what your present self keeps postponing. Or you can become the person who starts repairing life today. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. You do not need a perfect life before you begin living intentionally. You simply need your daily actions to move toward the person you want to become. Because habits are not merely routines. They are votes for your future identity. Each small decision says, "This is who I am becoming." That is why today's choices matter more than tomorrow's intentions. Tomorrow is only an idea. Today is reality. You don't need another year. You need a different today. Imagine waking up every morning and asking one simple question. If this day were repeated hundreds of times, would I be proud of the life it creates? If the answer is no, change the day. Not next month. Today. Read one chapter. Make one phone call. Take one walk. Tell one person you appreciate them. Finish one meaningful task. Small actions seem insignificant in isolation, but repeated consistently, they become a life. A meaningful life is not rescued at the end. It is constructed quietly, one ordinary day at a time. You have spent this audiobook removing illusions about time, approval, possessions, attention, and regret. Now only one lesson remains. How do you live so completely that every new day feels like a gift instead of a guarantee? That is where our journey ends. Chapter 10. Live so fully that tomorrow becomes a bonus. You have reached the final chapter, not the end of your life, the end of an illusion. The illusion that you have unlimited time. Throughout this journey, you have discovered something that most people spend an entire lifetime avoiding. Life is not transformed by knowing you will die. Life is transformed by remembering that you will. There is a difference. The goal was never to make you afraid of death. Fear rarely creates lasting change. Awareness does. The purpose of imagining your final 7 days was never to count down toward an ending. It was to reveal what has always mattered. You learned that tomorrow is a hope, not a promise. You learned that approval is a poor substitute for authenticity. You learned that unspoken love becomes regret, possessions become distractions, and attention becomes your true currency. Every lesson points to the same conclusion. Stop postponing your life. That's the key. Most people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect job, the perfect relationship, the perfect amount of money, the perfect version of themselves. But perfection has never been the doorway to a meaningful life. Action is. You have a choice. You can spend another year preparing to live, or you can begin living before this day is over. It is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming honest. Honest about what matters. Honest about who matters. Honest about the fact that every sunrise is a gift, not a guarantee. People who understand death stop postponing life. Read that again. People who understand death stop postponing life. They do not love less. They love more. They do not dream less. They begin. They do not wait for permission. They recognize that the most valuable things in life have always been available. Presence, courage, gratitude, kindness, connection. None of these require perfect circumstances. They require a decision, and that decision can only be made today. The countdown has already begun. The question is not how many days remain. The question is what you will finally do with today. When this audiobook ends, your life will continue exactly where you left it. The same home, the same work, the same responsibilities. But you do not have to remain the same person. Carry this lesson into tomorrow, not because tomorrow is guaranteed, but because if tomorrow arrives, it is another opportunity you were never promised. Live in such a way that each new morning feels like a bonus rather than an expectation. That is the difference between merely surviving and truly living. The countdown has already begun. The question is not how many days remain. The question is what you will finally do with today. If this truly were your final week, you wouldn't waste another hour pretending that the small things were the important things. You would forgive faster, love louder, create more, worry less, speak honestly, be present, put down the phone, call the people who matter, walk outside, watch the sunrise, finish what your heart has been asking you to begin. But here's the truth. No doctor has to give you 7 days for this lesson to become real. Time has already been leaving. 1 day at a time. 1 sunrise at a time. 1 opportunity at a time. Every morning is another day removed from your life. Every evening is 1 day you can never reclaim. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for someday. Live in a way that if tomorrow never comes, today was enough. And if tomorrow does come, treat it as a gift you were never promised. Your challenge is simple. When this audiobook ends, do one thing you've been postponing for months. Make the call. Begin the project. Tell someone you love them. Forgive someone. Or forgive yourself. Because life is not measured by how long you stay. It is measured by how completely you choose to live before your time is gone.